Hello everyone and welcome back to Milo Farms. Today we have a little bit of a different video. We picked up these two snowmobiles. They're 2007 Yamaha Phazer mountain lights. Both of them came from a family friend who had passed away, and they'd been stored for quite some time. So got them all running and went through them and found a few different things that needed to be repaired on them. Just mostly problems from storage, nothing serious on them. But one thing I did have a little bit of issue with was getting to the spark plugs, and to do that you have to remove the fuel tank and the seat and a whole bunch of other parts. And I noticed on YouTube there wasn't any other video of that process, and there was a lot of questions and things like that that I saw in some forums on how to do that. So I'm going to do a quick video this morning on just how to get to the spark plugs and the process behind that. So I've already disassembled it and figured it out myself, but it's kind of just sitting back together, and I'm going to go through the steps. So all the bolts and everything are already removed. The parts are just kind of sitting there, and I'm going to go through step by step and show where the bolts are, what to take off and what to look out for, and how to get to the spark plugs. And then once you're in there, you can do other things. If you needed to change their coolant, you could change the spark plugs. You can do the recall if you wanted to do that for the cold start, the decompression springs. You could do a lot of different things once you actually get in there to the motor. These sleds are very, very technologically advanced, but they also are very difficult to work on because they have so much technology, packed into a little spot in there around the motor. So we'll get started here. So the first thing you want to do is remove the seat. There's two bolts. There's one right here, and on the opposite side is the other bolt. You want to remove that, and then the seat is going to slide backwards and then lift up. So now what you're left with, you've got the seat removed so you can see the gas tank, and now we need to remove the shrouding off of it. The first thing I forgot to mention is the windshield. The 4 bolts on the windshield, this one, the 2 on the other side. Just take those off, get the windshield out of the way. You can do it without removing it, but it's just a lot easier if you remove it. Then what you have is the first thing is the shroud over the headlight. And this shroud has 2 pins in the back, right here, and same on the other side. Once you've popped those loose, they just pop into a rubber grommet. Just stick a screwdriver in and pop them up. Then it slides back and releases these 2 locks on the front and comes right off. Then the next thing you've got is the headlight, and that's a little bit of a challenge. The headlight, like I said, is already loose, but what you have is right here is a little plastic Phillips head screw that goes in the middle of a clip, and so you'll have to pop that Phillips head screw out, and then the clip will come right out. And then the harder part is underneath right here. There's a Phillips head screw that goes through here with a spring, and then it goes into this clip back here. And then the hardest part is behind that clip is actually a little clevis pin. So the first thing you got to do is pull the clevis pin out, and then you can unscrew the screw and catch the spring without it falling down inside somewhere. And this is that bolt with the spring on it. There's one on each side, and you can see the little hole where the tiny clevis pin goes. So once you've done that, the headlight is free, and then there's 2 plugs in the back of the headlight that plug in. And they're right here. You can see one pushes in each headlight bulb. So you remove those, and then the headlight comes off. So now what you're left with is these white panels, or whatever color they are on yours. I think they come in blue, I believe, and white, and maybe even red on some of the other years. So what you've got here is you want to take out the screw that's right here, the screw that's right here, and then same on the other side, the 2 screws. And then you want to come over to your side panel and take out the screw that's here and the screw that's here. Then the side panel will slide forward and pop off. You want to do that on both sides. And once you've gotten the side panels off, then you've got to get the white panel off over the gas tank. And to do that, there's 2 more screws, one right here and one right here that you want to remove. Then you want to take the gas cap off, and then you want to work this rubber up off of the filler neck. And you'll probably have to work that back and forth to get that off. Then next, if you have the accessory 12-volt outlet, which we have right here, you'll want to unplug this wire on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, you'll want to unplug this wire, which is for the ignition switch. Then this entire panel will lift up, and you can slip it around the headlight bracket, and the entire panel will come back off. I'd recommend putting the gas cap back on just so you don't drop anything down there. Next, you've got some wires on the back near the fuel pump. So you have, this is the power wire for the fuel pump. You want to release that. And then this red clip right here, there's another black clip that goes over the top of it. You'll want to release this black clip right here, which just snaps around the fuel line. Once that's released, then you can remove the red clip, slide it over, pull this whole unit off, and you want to pick it up somewhat quickly so the fuel doesn't spill out. And what I found is you can put it right here behind the handlebar, and it'll sit there all day long without a problem, and it won't spill any fuel anywhere. So now you're left with the gas tank to remove. So to remove the gas tank, what you want to do is you've got your vent line that's hooked on right here. You put that back out of the way. And then in the back you have two nuts and washers, one here and one here. And once you lift those, or take those washers off, the fuel tank will scoot back just a little ways. So I've lifted this fuel tank off and scooted it back about 1.5 or 2 inches. And then inside of here, on the left-hand side of the machine, you'll see this pipe on the front of the tank. And on it, it's hard to see down in there because it's quite dark, there's another fuel line that needs to be taken off. And I'm not sure if that's a return or what particular line that is, but it needs to be taken off. It might be the pressure line, I'm not sure. Needs to be taken off, and use a pair of needle nose or something and get the little clip off, and then it comes right off there. Then you're going to want to pull the fuel tank back a little bit further. And the last thing you're left with is right here, the sending unit plug. Disconnect that. And now the fuel tank is ready to be removed and set to the side. I'm not sure how they do it, but it works out pretty well. Once everything's been removed, as long as the tank is not just plumb full of fuel, nothing spills out. So there must be some kind of a check valve or something down in this fuel pump that keeps it from spilling fuel out of there. So now we're down to where you can at least see the engine. So if you're just doing spark plugs, this is where you'd want to stop. Right here is the spark plugs. You'll see you've got one of them here, and you've got one here. So to get those out, you remove this bolt right here, remove the wire, and the entire coil unit just wiggles and then pops out. And you can replace those spark plugs on both of those. If you're doing the recall for the cold start for the decompression springs, you'd take off the wires off the top here, take the coils out, take these two bolts here, the two bolts on top, and the rubber hose up there. Then the entire head cover would come off, valve cover I guess you'd call it, and then the decompression springs sit right here on this rear cam, and they're very easy to get to. If you're coming in here to do exhaust doughnuts, then you would want to remove this panel right here, which just sits on there. Once the gas tank is removed, it's just sitting on the same bolts. And then you have this cover right here, and this was one of the problems on mine. Underneath this cover, there's 3 bolts, one here, one over here, and one over here. Underneath this cover is a piece of material. It's not asbestos nowadays, I'm sure, but it's something very similar to that, this white material. On mine, the squirrels had gotten in there and eaten or taken away most of that material that was in there. And then reading online, I've also read that they just deteriorate and kind of fall off as well. So I had to get 2 new ones of these covers to replace the ones that were torn up on mine. But that gets you into the exhaust area now. And quite often on these sleds, the exhaust doughnuts, which are in here, will go bad and have to be replaced. So that's how you would access those. Then you've also got your coolant right there if you need to get to your coolant to change it out. The coolant bottle is right here on the other side. There's the coolant bottle. And my understanding is that you take the lower radiator hose off down here on the bottom of the radiator. You take that off and get the coolant out to change it out. So I hope that helps everybody. It's kind of a weird process. The sleds are very advanced, but once you get them apart, you can actually see what's going on in there. It's really not that complicated. Just getting them apart, the first time it took me about 45 minutes to figure out how to get it apart without breaking anything. And now that I've had it apart, you could get it down to probably 20 minutes because you know what you're actually looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and do the repairs that I need to do, and putting it back together is the same process, basically, just the reverse of that. And now that you know how to do it, it's a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back together, and then we'll see if we can get one of them started up once we're all done. Okay, so we got it most of the way back together. Still have a few panels that need to be put on, but everything that's necessary for it to run again is put back on. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a test start, just make sure we don't have any codes or anything that I might have messed something up in the process. Didn't get something plugged in quite right or have any leaks or anything while I can still see everything. We'll let it run for a few minutes. While I had it apart, I also changed the radiator fluid. I did the decompression springs for the recall, and just looked everything over, and then I also replaced that plate in there that the squirrels had eaten the insulation out of the back of. So everything should be good to go. We'll see if it starts up here. Everything looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the cover on over the headlight, put the clevis pins in on both sides of the headlight, readjust the headlight, and then put the covers on both sides, and then put the clutch cover and all that back on this side, and then the other cover back on the other side. I've got all the bubbles out of the antifreeze already. Everything's looking good there. And then lastly, I'm going to put the windshield and the seat back on, and everything should be good. Then we'll start on the same process on the next one back there. So I hope this video was helpful to somebody. They're both older sleds, but I know there's still plenty of interest out there looking at the forums and things like that. So we'll see you next time here on Milo Farms. Please like, comment, subscribe.